Good morning, everybody. This morning, I want to look at the famous statement that we all know. We say it when we come into a shul, Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. It's these words ring true. We understand them. How beautiful, how goodly, or how fair are your tents. Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael, your dwelling places, Israel. And let's try and understand where it's coming from. It's an amazing concept that we say these words going into a shul when they actually are the words of Bilam, of this evil man who really wanted to destroy the Jewish people. So, in order to understand that, let's just look a couple of psukim before. We know once again Bilam keeps giving these messages of positivity about the Jewish people, and Balak is very upset about that. And so he goes to another place, and as the Torah describes it, Bilam lifts up his eyes and he sees Bnei Israel shochein lishvatav, which living according to its tribes. And Rashi there says, Ra'ah kol shevet v'shevet shochein la'atzmo va'enam ma'aravin. Sees that the tribes are not mixing. They see that the openings are not opening towards one another. Why? In order that they don't see into each other's tents. What a thing it is that Bnei Israel have set up themselves in a manner in which they've never been commanded to do that. No one has told them you're not allowed to do this, but they've been told that they don't look, in order that they don't look into each other's tents, which is a really beautiful concept of two things. The idea is that we don't look into other people's places, but also there's a certain level of tzniut that I don't want other people to look into my life. Why do I have to open up my life to allow people to look in? Not only that people don't want to look, but me, it's important for me. It's a hashkafa in my life that I don't have to open up my whole life to everybody. So it comes along Bilam and he says, "Vayisait mishalo," and he lifts up himself. V'yisalish mashalo. He takes his theme, his marshal, the way he's going to speak. Vayomer ne'um Bilam beno. He starts speaking again about praising himself, which is always interesting. And then he describes himself. Ne'um shomea imre'el. Ne'um, the word of him that hears the words of Hashem. Hashem achazeh Shaddai yechezeh, who sees the visions of Shaddai, of what is one of Hashem's names. Nofel ugilui enayim. When he falls down, but his eyes are opened up. In other words, what he's saying, that it's clear to Bilam that it's that although he may be lying in his bed, although he may not be the person who is normally the one who is able to reach the highest levels of Nevuah, nonetheless, Gilui Einayim, he's able to see, his eyes have been opened up. And what he's able to see is this one thing which we say, Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. How wonderful are your tents, Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. And says Rashi there, what are these things? Ma tovu alecha, ma tovu ohel Shilo, ubeit olamim b'yishivun. After he described the actual physical tents of Bnei Israel having being situated so that they don't see each other, he also then says there's another thing, that the oil of Shiloh and the Beit Olamim, there's something special about Bnei Israel, that they are devoted, that their spaces of living are spaces in which there are korbanot, where there are places where they can come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mishkanotecha are the dwelling places. Says Rashi, Afkeshen Charevin, even though they destroyed, even when they destroyed, the Fishain Mashkon Aleichem, they are the Mashkon, they are like the collateral to the Jewish people. V'chulbanam kapara al nefashot, that when they are destroyed, that's a kapara, that is an atonement for the nefashot, for the souls of the Jewish people. And therefore it's clear that what Bilam is seeing, according to Rashi, is he's seeing that there's something about our commitment to the space where HaKadosh Baruch Hu dwells, that commitment is one that stands us in good stead, even when we are in some way divorced or distant from the Ribono Shel Olam. Nonetheless, that the fact that we had a space in which we showed our commitment, nonetheless, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps that as a kapara, as an atonement for all of us. As we're about to go into the 3 weeks now, please God, on Sunday, it will be Shivasa B'Tammuz. Hopefully we won't have to fast. Mashiach will be here, but if he's not, we will fast. We will fast because it's the beginning of this process of distancing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ultimately coming to its most strongest point at Tisha B'Av. But nonetheless, we learn this incredible lesson from Bilam. After Shen Charevin, even though they're destroyed, nonetheless, there still is this relationship that we have with this depth and this importance and this connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. But it's not only Rashi that speaks. There are others that speak. And the Sforno says, Ma tov Alecha Yaakov. What is the Ohalecha? The Batei Midrashot. The Batei Midrashot are the Ohalim of Yaakov. Why are they the Ohalim? Where do we get that from? Well, we know that it says that that Yaakov was Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. That Yaakov was this man who was, we say Ishtam, we translate that as simple, but it means he was very pure, very naive in a way. Yoshev Ohalim, he sat in the tents are the tents of the Batei Midrash. Ke'inyan Yoshev Ohalim, ke'inyan vayishkon v'alei shem, v'chein v'hayakol mechakei Hashem yatzeh el oil moed. Everybody, whenever you want to really desire to connect to Hashem, where do you go? You go to hear the word of Hashem. Where do you hear the word of Hashem? You hear the word of Hashem in the Beis Midrash, because that's what the Torah is. The Torah is the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mishkanotecha, says the Sforno, Mishkanotecha are the Batei Knesiot. Those are the places that are devoted to tefillah, which the devoted where HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself will vest, because that's where he vests, in the place where we will go to connect to him, where we speak to him. The first place is Matov Alecha, is where he speaks to us, but where we speak to him is the place where his name vests, and where he goes to accept the tefillah, the prayer of those who are davening. Why does he say Matovu? It's not only, it's an amazing Matovu, doesn't mean how good, but it means how do they do good for others. It's not only that they do good for those that are in those places, the Batei Midrash and the Batei Knesset. It's not only that, but what? But those places have an impact on the entire nation. And why? Because we see that from that these places, the way he wants to describe it, the Sforno, is that those are the places where we sit, and from there everything moves out over, and that's why we need to remember this. That's why it's so difficult and so tragic for us to have to close shuls, and everybody understands that and feels that. But it's also so important for us to come back into our shuls, because if we don't come back into our shuls, we are not able to have the same impact. Yes, we can daven in the garden minyanim, and yes, we can go do everything that we want in the other places, but our shuls are the place in which we have an encounter with HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a national level, not only on a communal level. Because our encounter, not only on a personal level, because our encounter on the national, communal level is an encounter that impacts not only us, but impacts everybody. But when we're in our small little groups, davening or whatever the case is that we're doing smallly, but we're not involved in a much wider community contact, says the Sforno, we don't have as much impact. And really, that is something, I suppose, that we need to look at as we go into one more Shabbos where we don't have our shuls open. Let us daven that, please God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should take away this terrible Magefah, this terrible plague, so that we can once again be part of the Ohalecha Yaakov and the Mishkanotecha of Israel. Wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos. Please God, we'll continue to learn next week.